For today, I actually want to start with a small story. And the story is about Mike. It's actually a real story. So meet Mike. Mike has a great business idea. It's a SaaS platform for landlords and tenants in the Netherlands. Mike spends 6 months on his idea. Mike is really passionate about what they want to achieve. Mike is really working every weekend and holiday days just for his idea. Mike is normally working full-time job, but spends the rest of the time, like many young entrepreneurs, working on their business idea. The platform works sometimes, but it's okay. And he hasn't shown it to anyone. Most of the people, also including me, back in the days, I also had the same challenge where I'm so passionate about something, I have a really nice idea in my mind and I'm working on it, and I haven't shown it yet to anyone because I'm not 100% confident that this idea is the one that is gonna work. I don't believe it yet. So what normally happens is that after 6 months of spending and working on my idea, Mike at one point starts to be discouraged. So Mike gives up. He doesn't give up on the idea. He just is discouraged that he cannot continue. He faces a lot of challenges building the whole idea. So he starts looking for support. What normally happens in this case, and also what happened to Mike in this case, is that around 6 months, Mike is hiring some freelancers, or Mike is looking for external vendor to help them build the solution. He doesn't have a lot of money, so he's actually using his own money to sponsor this. So he's bootstrapping. So he spends additional 3 to 6 months to do the perfect platform solution. He's so passionate about this idea that every week he spends so much time, including with the vendors, on every pixel. He's building everything to be perfect. He's always in the meetings, always challenging, just to be perfect. And then after 6 months is the launch day. The day that every time you are so looking forward to it. It's really the day that you are super excited. It's the day that you've been spending so much time to build and see something finally tangible, that you can push the button to launch and be happy about it, with what you achieved. So Mike goes on LinkedIn and shares, I'm excited to share that I built this SaaS platform. Congrats! My mom and his mom shares it. Your friends share it. Everyone starts saying congrats, looks good. Sometimes they say it doesn't work, but it is part of life. What happens after that is month 1, 0 customers. Month 2, 0 customers. Month 3, maybe a few signups, and then they leave. What happens with all the users is the reason why they also leave is that most of the time they say it's too complex, or I don't really understand how this works, or why should I use this instead of Airbnb or another competitor, right? So Mike spent 6 months, or sometimes even longer, 12 months. He already spent 50K, sometimes it can be 30K, it can be lower depending on your idea, and you have 0 paying customers. This story, it's not something that I invented. It's a story that actually I see quite often happening even nowadays. In this case, it's Mike, but in your case, it could be that you're building a B2B SaaS platform. It could be that you're building a CRM system. It could be that you're doing an AI wrapper that you've been working for 4 months. It could be that you are working on a mobile app, right? This is just the idea of Mike, but in the end, it can be even your idea. So Mike is an example. The story is real, and that's what we actually see a lot in Codelevate. In fact, if you look into the statistics, why startups fail is that 42% fail because there was no market need. And this is something that I see quite often. You're so passionate about building your idea, you believe a lot in your idea, but the market is not there, or you haven't found a way how to approach towards the market. So you build something that nobody wants. The fact that happens after that quite often is that you already spent some money, but you don't have endless money. So running out of money actually is not the cause here, is the symptom. The cause, and what you also see is that there's no market fit yet. So this story, and the reason why I want to share it and start with that one, is because at Codelevate, where I am one of the founders, we see that almost every month. We are, I would say, digital agency that works with startups here based in Amsterdam. So we have every month new customers that are approached to us, and they go through the same process. And our goal is to challenge their assumptions, not just build what they want. It's also to help them move to the next step. Swapcart is one of the stories that I'll share in a bit as well. And then we can deep dive of actually what worked. Because besides Codelevate, we also started our own startup so that we can experience what it's like on the other side. And of course, we have a lot of failed startups, ideas that we've been also in the same shoes like Mike. So let's go back to 2021. I want to tell you the story of Swapcart. So Swapcart, if you don't know what is it, it's a really simple idea. Are you familiar with digital business cards? Yeah? Do you know one of these? I have one here. It's an NFC card, which you can program it, so you touch it, and it opens a digital business card where you can share your contact details. Okay? Back in 2021, right around COVID time, I went to an event. What I want to say is that Mike had an idea, but actually what happened was that I experienced this issue of every time going to an event, connecting on LinkedIn, or I collected at that time a lot of business cards. Everybody was giving me just paper business cards, and then it was really time consuming to actually fill in all the data and make the follow-ups after that. If you're a salesperson, I think you might have this issue that you go to a conference, you meet every day a lot of people, you have a pile of LinkedIn connections and paper cards, and then you have to follow up after that, because the idea is not just to connect, you actually want to progress, you potentially want to get a new customer, right? So you want to make this relationship. And this happened a lot in the beginning when we started the business, because I was going and traveling to all type of conferences all over the world, just so that I can get more customers. So I went through this experience, and back then there were already a few industries that started using digital business cards, but it was not that popular yet here in the Netherlands. So then I said, well, I have this personal problem, so that's why I say it wasn't an idea, it was a frustration that I experienced myself, and that's how I was like, okay, what if I actually can solve this problem? So what we did back in, I think it was October 2021, a friend of mine who is now my business partner as well in the company, we bought a super cheap NFC card, the same one that I just showed you. I just went on bol.com, I typed in, I bought a cheap one for €3, next day arrived. And I wanted just to program it. It's super easy, it's super simple. You program the card and you create your own digital business card. So I went on a site, I created my own digital business card, and I created just one page. That simple, you know? That was my actually POC, proof of concept, or it could be also MVP in some cases. Next week, I actually have an event. I had an event in Amsterdam. And it was the perfect moment actually to share this prototype that I built, or proof of concept. I went to the Amsterdam event and used the product myself in real time. And I think that's one of the areas which was super interesting, because when you're building a product, you also want to use it yourself and go through the same shoes that your customer go. Because then you really understand how it actually works and what is the actual problem that you're solving. So for me, and also for people during this event, this was really the aha moment that I was looking for. What happened in reality? We went to the event, everybody is chatting, I'm just walking around, I'm not pitching my startup. I actually, at that time, still worked in another company. So I just used my shitty NFC card that I just bought for €3, and I use it everywhere. And I still remember the day to see everybody that came to me. At one point, I remember I was surrounded like 5-6 people that were, oh, how that this works? So not many people knew how it works, so they were curious. And this curiosity brought them like, oh, that's so simple. Oh, that's super nice. I want to use it. But how does this work? Can I use it on my phone or can I do that? So I didn't do a pitch or I didn't do anything. I just started using the product in front of my customers who are the salespeople, because most of the time salespeople use these tools, and I went directly to them. So they were really like, wow, I want one of these. And after this event, 40 hours, 8 hours later, I already had 10 paying customers. And the feeling, probably if you already had an idea or you had your startup and you went through this process and you had even your first paying customer, I think that's the best feeling that you can have from the beginning. So I was like, oh my God, this is it. This is the idea. Like, I really believe in it. I should go for it. So if I reflect back to Mike, who spent 12 months, 50K, 0 customers, and Nicko, who spent 1 weekend, €3, and got 10 customers in less than 5 days, I think this already shows you the direction that many startups actually nowadays try to achieve. So the lesson that I actually got from this experience back then was, don't ask if they want it, show them. And quite often when you build some product, you actually go and try to pitch it, of course, try to demo it. But even nowadays you can see that until you don't have something that you can show, people are not interested. They really want to see something tangible that you can show. So here are 4 lessons that I want to share based on this experience that I experienced back then. So first, if your MVP is perfectly executed, you're already late. I still remember the moment that it happened also to me. I was building another platform, and I spent again a month, and I'm a UX designer by background, so I really wanted everything to be perfect. But in the end, that really didn't help me. It was just delaying the process. So second one, something that really worked for me and I see with many companies is actually be your own customer. Use the product yourself, and especially if you're familiar with the problem that you want to solve and you're using the tool, this will be really helping for you in the future to really be in the shoes of the customer. Third, don't pitch, demonstrate. So quite often, if somebody comes to you, even if I go just to you and try pitching my company, you don't care. You know, I need to try to show you curiosity and like, what do we do? And this is always the case in the beginning. Don't try to be salesy. Nowadays, there are so many people try to be super salesy. Try to show really how it works. Give them some curiosity of how actually solves their problem. And fourth, put yourself in the rooms where the product can work. And every product has a natural habitat. Find it, go there. What happens after that? Now we found the 10 customers, right? But how do you go to the next 100 customers, right? I cannot just go to another event. Well, maybe I can, but probably it would take me a lot of time to reach 100 customers. So this is what the distribution method, which worked for me, and I see it also with many companies, that really helps you go not only to 100, but 1,000, 2,000, and so on. The product itself contains a public moment of magic. And what I mean by that? A stranger sees a customer using it, he understands it, and he wants it. The same experience that we did at the event, if you remember earlier. I just went, I show it to them, they understand how it works, and they want it. Same story with some real use cases. Everybody knows Calendly, right? Everybody knows Loom, everybody knows Notion. This distribution channel is something that will help you move from 10 customers to the next phase. For example, Calendly, every time you share a link, you know, people go to the Calendly and they actually experience your product. So they're like, okay, I actually need that. It helps me. Same for Loom, same for Notion. Like probably so many of you already use Notion. And when you share a Notion page, with somebody else that doesn't use Notion, they're like, oh, that actually looks nice. Maybe I can try it, right? Same happened with me in SwapCard. So I started, 10 customers bought SwapCard, they started using, and then you have this network effect. You go to another event and they're like, oh, what's this? Oh, SwapCard, okay, I wanna buy as well. So that's how we actually went from 10 customers to even more. And this same approach, you can actually use it in your idea, right? So think about the distribution model that will help you move from 10 customers to 100 as well. Yeah, so the SwapCard version, what I mentioned is every tab is a demo. Every demo is a referral. So my job from 10 customers to 100 was simple. Give digital cards faster. But what if nobody wants it, right? Sometimes you're like, okay, well, what if nobody wants my idea? Same happened to me as well with another startup. I was like pitching and trying to go and trying to sell. I did all the wrong things that I mentioned earlier. And then I found out that actually the problem I'm solving is not big enough. And that happens quite often with many startups where you're focusing on super small problem that people are not willing to pay. So you always need to find this way of how big the problem is that you're solving. So the question you want to ask yourself is, if you already have a startup idea, where inside your product is the moment someone else sees it happen? Think about it. So the lessons that I want to share from my experience, that we went from 10 customers to 100 customers, is that your first 10 customers are your first 10 case studies. How it works is, probably already experienced it yourself, is in the beginning you are hunting for case studies. Like, hey, I actually want customer that is in this industry and they use my product. Maybe I should go find more in this because it solves a problem. And same thing happens. You have 10 case studies that you can actually go and show. And what really helps, and what we've seen based on our experience, is that if you have one case study in a particular problem in a particular industry and you go show it to the audience, there will be more companies with the same problem from the same industry that would be willing to buy. And I think more than 80% of the customers that came to us, if we show them like a case study of a specific problem that they have, they are like, okay, we need to solve this. You've solved it, so you have a proof of experience. Second one, talk to them on a regular basis. I think that's something really important, especially in the early stage, that you really have to talk to your customers. And I'm not saying to do interviews and research. I really say like, hey, I see that you use my platform. How is it going? For what do you use it? What is your experience? And try to get as much information as possible, just normal conversations. The third one, ask for the referral, don't wait for it. So definitely once you have 10 customers, you also want to see how you can use this referral method that other people can actually refer you. And that happened also with SwapCard. In SwapCard, the moment somebody used, they were happy with the product, so they were happy to refer. And I didn't even pay them. Like normally you would probably consider some incentives to give, but if the customer is so happy with your product, they're happy to even share it with somebody else. And last, ship what the 10 customers want and ignore what they don't. Here is a really important mistake that also happened with us back in the days. When you have 10 customers, you try to talk to them, you get some ideas, they share ideas with you, and then you start building whatever they want. And at one point, your product is like built only for them. But that doesn't mean that the other customers want it, right? So before you think about building, especially nowadays with AI, building becomes really easy. Try to write it down as in the backlog as an idea. Wait for it and see if other customers want it. Because if other customers want it, then it really makes sense to build it. But if only one, two wants and they're like, oh, I have this idea, can you do it? And you say yes, then you have later issues with your product. Looking back and reflecting through this experience, what happens nowadays is that we entered, of course, in the AI era, and a lot of the things that I just shared probably also changes a bit in the landscape of nowadays. So if I started today, here is what I would do. The process that we went at the moment is not something that will change. In the end, you really want to talk to your customers. And based on our experience at Codelevate, is actually that you should be a subject matter expert in the domain where you're building the product, or be with somebody from this area, because if you're not, it's going to be really difficult for you to understand the problem and to actually solve what you have to do. So how can you, of course, use AI nowadays? Well, we all know the first one built the POC with AI. In my case, it was quite easy. Okay, I spent a weekend. In Mike's case, he spent 6 months. Nowadays, with AI, with Cloud Code or ChatGPT or whatsoever, thank you for the applause, you can actually do it much faster, right? And this is really something that we've also tested with other startups that came to us that really works. So nowadays, what we do is before we even build something, right? Let's say you have a business idea and you are looking for scaling it and building it properly. I think already more than 50% of the customers come with a prepared AI prototype. And they say, okay, I built this prototype, here is how it works, I tested it already with customers, and I got feedback, and they're willing to pay, sometimes already paid. And this is already a proof of traction that you can use so that you know you're on the right way before investing even more money. The second one is define your ICP by name. So nowadays, probably if you go to LinkedIn, every day I see posts of people selling tools that you can use to find signals, patterns, or things like that in AI. So how it works is that AI basically go on search, scrapes a lot of data from forums and things like that. Third one, show it, don't pitch it. Same thing that we discussed as well. If you have built it already with AI, a simple prototype, and you show it, and basically give them the option to even use it, this really helps, especially in early stage. I will not play the video, but if you wanna actually, when you have some free time, you can go to our channel on YouTube, Codelevate. We had recently a really nice podcast, like around 15 minutes, with Rangel, who is actually the perfect example, and he shares a lot of his experience building a SaaS company in the legal tech. And he's actually backed by Y Combinator, so I think it's really a nice proof of concept that you can learn a lot from it. So that's why I want to share it, of how you can go from 0 customers to 10,000. It's really nice conversation in English, so feel free to have a look. To listen to it. If they don't pay for it broken, they won't pay for it Polish. And that's actually one of the things we also discussed with Rangel in the podcast, how he went to build their startup idea in a weekend. Next week, they went to a customer, direct message, they said, hey, we've built this AI tool for you for legal firms, for lawyers. I want to show it to you. They booked a demo, they went in person, show it. It was not perfect at all, so you can hear his story. It actually was full of bugs, it collapsed, but the company understood the problem, they understood what they're trying to solve, and they're like, okay, how much is gonna cost for 1 year? And they subscribed. And in less than 10 months, they already have average 10,000 euro MRR, so monthly recurring revenue, and they have more than 100,000 customers. So you can imagine if you're, how a simple prototype that he built in a weekend can actually scale so fast. So what I see at Codelevate is 4 patterns every single time. The first one, be the customer you're building for. So this is the real pattern that I see with every startup that comes to us, that if you're the customer that you're building for, or you are a subject matter expert, this really helps you to understand the problems that you want to solve, and you are really living the problem. You have to be obsessed with that. The second one is sell the outcome before you build the product. Something that works quite a lot with startups that came to us, based on real stories, is really that you're building an AI product, for example, but on the back end, you're doing quite a lot still manually. And that's totally fine, because at this stage, what is important is really the outcome. If I go to a company and I tell them about all these amazing features, they don't care. They care how this thing is going to help them actually solve a particular problem. So they want the outcome, not the product. Your first 10 customers are actually your product team in the beginning. So every time we work with startups and we see the first customers, how this shapes their product. Because customers start to use it and they start sharing feedback. Sometimes it's not good feedback. Sometimes they say, yeah, this doesn't work, or what should I do with that? It's too complex. That's still some information that you can use later that will help you move to the next stage. At least you know the problem that you need to focus on. And the last pattern that I see a lot happening at the moment is that, especially with AI, shipping is really easy. Everyone can now prompt something, build a website, build an AI tool, and then you're done. But that also becomes the problem nowadays, and I see it even in big corporate world companies here. Because the idea nowadays is not that you have to build more features. It's actually, especially in the beginning, not to overbloat your product with so many ideas, because you can do it in a weekend with AI. It's more like focus on one particular problem with one particular solution, and then later expand one by one. If I have to summarize 8 things, is basically this. This is the playbook that we see quite often with the startups that come to us. And it's really based on the experience that we see nowadays. And it works for them, so that's why I wanted to share it now, because it can also help you. We don't need to go through all of them. You can make a screenshot, you can use it. Maybe it helps other people as well. If I go back to Mike, or me and Alex is my business partner, what we learned is that Mike wasn't a bad founder. Neither we were, but we did things in a different way, in the wrong order. We sometimes spent too much time on building something instead of validating, or I, for example, was too shy to talk to customers, and I was so obsessed with the idea that I thought maybe if I just build it and ship it, everybody will love it. And we've seen that so many times with other companies as well. So a startup is not built in your head. It's built in contact with reality. And that is something that even nowadays, it's so simple, but we still ignore it so fast. Thank you.